let's talk legacy here, because when the team hoists the trophy, as Ohio State is doing right now, it's worth noting, Chris, this is a weird team because we were talking in the offseason, and I think people recognize this Ohio State team has the potential to be one of the best teams we've seen in the last 25 years. When you looked at how the roster goes.
I predicted.
Yes. They lost 2 games.
They did.
One of them to a bad team.
Yeah.
But then
not bad team.
Michigan is not good.
It's
anyway.
an average team.
Sure. Anyway, you look at, but the problem is you look at the playoff and how they performed in the playoff. I sense, I don't want to use the C word, our casuals out there. I don't want to take a shot at them, but it feels like there's an idea that, like, well, did you see him against Oregon? Did you see him against Tennessee? This was a gauntlet. This team does not touch 2019 LSU. Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. Like the fact that college defenses had to try and defend that team is insane.
We would have beat that team.
I don't know about that, Dave. Are you
kidding
Which
me?
one? I mean, you didn't beat Auburn one of those.
Yeah.
And again, we won a national championship that
That's
year.
true. But Chris,
and hold on. I know Cam's gonna be pissed off at me for cutting you guys off, but I just want to make a statement. I want to go back to something that me and Chris low key argued about.
Okay.
Which was whoever won this national championship, because this was after what was his name? Sad Husker Nate. After Sad Husker Nate got on and left his voicemail, and I said, whoever wins this game, somebody is going to put an asterisk by it, or you open the door to have these conversations about, like, oh, well, what about this? What about that? And then Chris starts, oh, no, we're not going to do that. Oh, no, I'm not going to do that. Well, then
I said we're not putting an asterisk on.
We're doing it right now. We're doing it. Ubben's doing it.
No. This is the team. I'm talking.
Like I said.
The question was Ubben was saying,
where does this team rank of all time? I think it's one of the.
It's not 2019 LSU. It's not 2020 Alabama. It is the greatest postseason run we've ever seen.
Sure.
Because none of them had to do that.
Yeah.
No one's had to beat 4 top 10 teams on the way to a national.
It's a top 5 roster that we've seen. But this team did not perform that way.
I predicted before the season this team will go 16-0, win the national championship. Could be one of the best seasons we've ever seen. It wasn't that. So clearly, that Dame, that's what he was saying. He was trying to say, is this the best CFP team of all time? Mm-hmm. He's saying it because Cam brought the question up while we were watching the game and earlier. I immediately said no. You said no. It wasn't even top 2. So LSU's better in 2018. Alabama's better in 2020. After that, like, didn't one of those Clemson teams go undefeated? Like, I might put one of those there.
Yeah.
You got 2 regular season losses. Like, that's really going to ding you.
And no conference championship.
But the wins, the top 10 wins, 4 top 10 wins in the span of a month and a half, essentially, in a row. Only one of those at home. That's the greatest thing we've ever seen because it's the first time we've ever seen the 14 playoffs.
Yeah.
So that's my case. I think this is the best postseason run, not the best overall season we've seen. Dame, would you agree with that?
Well, yeah, just because nobody's had to play this many games in the playoffs.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But you guys might hate me for saying this, but when I look at the teams that they played, like, I don't want to take anything away from this Ohio State championship, but we talk about, oh, well, they beat all these top 10 teams. Well, they beat a Texas team where we were talking all year about how Quinn Ewers looked like a shell of his former self. They couldn't run the ball.
A top 10 win.
Yeah, their defense.
Not everybody's loaded.
Well, yeah, it's a top 10 win. Whenever we've been talking about the playing field across college football is the same. Like, one team isn't necessarily that much better than the rest. Ohio State was because they were more talented, but everybody else, the playing field was so even. So yeah, we're talking about top 10 teams. But look at a Tennessee team with Nico Iamaleava, who, once he stopped playing against non-FBS teams, looked like your average Joe quarterback. I mean, yeah, they were impressed, and they did. They looked really, really good against Oregon. Like, that one, I will give them. But again, like, yes, they played more games. They had to beat more teams once they got to the playoff. But if I'm analyzing, like, deep down and I'm looking at it through a straw at the teams that they played, like, none of them were really that impressive. None of them were really that dominant. It was just Oregon. That's it.
Yeah. I'm working on. What about the team that just beat? They just beat Georgia.
Oh my! I'm putting together. Okay, what's Notre Dame's path to get here?
I'm putting together the 134 right now. It'll be out on Wednesday. They have beaten 5 of the top 11 teams, and one of them is them. So of the top 10 teams that aren't them, They beat half of them.
Yeah.
They beat Oregon. That's a very good team. The only team to beat Oregon. They were up 34-0 in that game. They beat Notre Dame. Very good team. They beat Texas. Good team. They beat Tennessee. They destroyed Tennessee, and they destroyed Indiana. Like, that's really good. Like,
it is good.
How can you be like, the win?
I'm just saying. I think this was a season without great teams. That's the thing.
Exactly.
Oregon goes undefeated, and they got smacked. And
Oregon
I think that hurts
that until Ohio State.
They weren't. No, nobody was talking about Oregon as like a great. That's my point, though.
We had the same conversation about Oregon and when they barely escaped against Wisconsin. Like, again, Chris, I respect your rankings and I respect everything you're saying, but I think that you're looking at it from like a 30,000-foot view, whereas if you look, like I said, if you look at it through a straw, and then if you don't compare Texas to the rest of college football, and you just look at what they did and how they performed every single week, you can look and say that's not a great football team. Like, you can say that Oregon, or even we weren't saying that Oregon was this all-world beater.
Nobody was scared of Oregon.
Nobody was scared of Oregon. We didn't say that after they almost lost to Wisconsin.
Nobody's scared of Oregon. Nobody came into the playoff. How many people picked Oregon to win it all? Not that many. You did, but not that many people. They're the number one seed, but they weren't like this consensus, like, oh, they're definitely going to win it, or they, that's the truth. The team that we're sleeping on in terms of resume, actually, 2011 LSU.
Yes, that's an incredible.
2011 LSU. They didn't win the title, so people don't remember. That team beat 4 conference champions. That's crazy. That just is not something that happened. They beat Oregon, West Virginia.
2 West Virginia for that
yes,
one.
Alabama,
at Alabama.
And then I forget the 4th, but they beat another one.